Okay, we're going to try a new kind of build project, and this time it's going to be some terrain build, and this is what I'm going to call scrapyard, so it's going to be basically just scraps I have laying around, and this is an example of what I'm going to make. It's basically a double pipe that is elevated. To start with, obviously I need the pipe, so what I use is 2 paper towel rolls, which if you're anything like me, I got tons of those laying around the house. And I'm going to use a hot glue gun, and we're just going to glue a relatively straight line across, just eyeballing. This entire build will be pretty much eyeballed, so just making sure it's about the same height, and then when I lay it down flat, that they're flat and level with one another. After I'm happy with that, I'm going to grab the next part, which is the support bars that are underneath it, and what I use is just a 1/2 inch dowel rod, cut to 4 1/4 inches each, and then to mount those into, I use these just foam core board scraps I had laying around, and they're 2-inch square. And then I took the dowel rod, set it onto the scraps, and then I just grabbed a pencil and drew the shape of the dowel rod, and that is my guide for cutting it out. And then I'm going to just use an X-Acto knife and cut out the circle that I just drew. Okay, after I got those cut out, I need going to use the hot glue and just put a healthy amount of hot glue around the inside edge of the hole that I cut out. And I'll set this down on a piece of parchment paper, and then I'll just set the dowel rod in there, and then make sure you spin it around so that the glue will float all the edges. And again, I'm just eyeballing to make sure it's level. I mean, if you really wanted to get picky, you could get the square out and just make sure that it's square. And the parchment is there, if you see, I could just that way, because when you dip it down, obviously the hot glue is going to go everywhere, so it'll go on. It won't stick to the parchment paper, so you can just pull it right back off, and you don't have a giant mess on your hands. So, and I'm just going to repeat the process for the other side. Again, everything here is just eyeballed, nothing particularly perfect with it. Not in a scrap build for me. It's going to be pretty simple build. That's the idea behind it. So as you can see, the parchment paper just peels right off, and you have 2 little T's. And to glue those T's onto the pipe, I just put a line of glue along parallel lines along the outside edges, and kind of see about where you want to stick it on the pipe and stick it down. Nice thing about hot glue gun and paper, I mean, it glues pretty much instantly. So, if you don't like where you put it, you could pull it off, but you're probably going to tear the paper. So just eyeball it and be happy with where you put it, because you probably are not going to be able to pull it back off real easy. And just going down to the other side, and we're going to glue that one on. Yeah, you have a pipe with 2 poles sticking out the top, so that's a good start. The next part, I'm going to do some banding around the pipe, and so I have just it's a piece of cardstock like you'd buy from the store to make greeting cards with, and so it's real flexible. It's not really thick, it's just thicker than standard paper, and it's 8.5 by 11, and then I cut it 4 millimeters and then two 2mm strips. And I'm just using some tacky glue, but you could use any kind of glue you want that glues paper, because we're going to glue a paper strip to a paper roll, so anything goes good with paper. I just like white tacky glue, seems to glue pretty quick, and so that's kind of my staple. So, and make sure when you put the glue down you either get the corners or use your finger and make sure it gets into the corners, that way you don't have that corner peel up like you normally would with paper. And then the other trick I do, and it's just me, is I'll wiggle it around after it's on there, that way it spreads the glue around into that corner, and peels up, no big deal. Just keep working at it until it stays down. As you can see, the two banding doesn't actually touch one another through the thing, which I'm fine with because it's on the bottom, you're not going to see it anyway, so I just make sure the banding curves underneath the pipes, that way it doesn't, it's not completely noticeable. But the main idea behind it is, after the banding's on there, you have some texture that's on the pipes. Instead of just being a straight pipe, it now has something to break that up, and so when you're dry brushing or whatever, you'll have something to pick up on and make it look pretty good. So we're just going to repeat what I did with the second one in pretty much the same spot. Okay, for the next strip, we're going to use that 4mm wide strip. Again, these are the measurements I used. Obviously, if you're duplicating this, just use whatever size you feel like. It was easy for me to use a paper cutter for those sizes, so that's what I used. But you only want to glue half of the strip, or as far as the width of the strip, so you're basically just gluing that same 2mm, and it's going to go around the outside, and you want the non-glued part to stick out over the pipe, is what the idea behind this is. And then it's a little bit harder when it's on the end like this, but glue it down. And what I tried to do is point the corners in so that the non-glued part would flare out a little bit, and did not make it really tight around the pipe for this particular part of the banding. So you got kind of a Wall-E eyeball effect, and that's what you're shooting for there. There you go, I got the bandings all on, so I'm just going to grab a piece of MDF that I've pre-cut out, and it's the right length and it's an irregular shape, and I'm just going to dab a bit of hot glue on both ends of the dowel rods and just glue those straight onto the MDF board. It should not take very long time to dry as long as you sand it, make it a little rough up for the glue to grab onto. And then just to show you what there's the finished product, I guess. And then so you can see the banding, elevated pipe, and that opening is like that, so that when you make another one just like this, it'll just slide into that, and it'll cover up the fact that the two pipes may not be the right length, and you can get a little bit of a curve to it. So it works pretty good. Here are a couple others, and so here you go is what they look like on the table. I just needed to get a little bit more room to be able to set them all down so you can put them on camera. I got 3 of them together. They stack together really nice, and if you can disconnect them really easy. So you have to make sure when you paint it, which I'll do another video with painting, you just want to try to not glue blob the paint on the edges so that you can still slide it in and out. And you have to especially watch the paper because it has a tendency to shrink or warp when it gets paint on it. I'm going to grab that Tech Marine, and you can set underneath it so you can see kind of a height going. And like from the table to the top of the pipes, I measured it out, and it's exactly 6 inches. And the width-wise works really good because there's a Chimera will be able to fit in between the 2 pipes or over the other. Works pretty good. Grab my son's Vendetta, and you can see that you set it up on top of the pipe. It's not even wiggly. I mean, it's nice and sturdy. And no matter where you put it out on the pipe, or you can even put it sideways, it's going to be fine. So I think pretty much any vehicle you want to kind of roast over top of the pipe, it'll work for pretty much any game. So thanks for watching.